Teacher talking sports, what it does, what it do, how we live in. When it comes to the NFL, it's highly unlikely you're going to see the same exact playoff teams that you saw in the previous season, especially since the NFL expanded from 12 to 14 playoff teams. Well, today, Bill Barnwell of ESPN posted an article ranking the 14 NFL playoff teams by chances of return in 2023. He starts out by prefacing how much stronger the AFC looks this season, and that is definitely a valid point. I did a video maybe 2 months ago who's the second best quarterback in the NFC behind Jalen Hurts because all the great quarterbacks, the majority of them are in the AFC. But what he does is rank them from most likely to least likely to make the postseason. I've mentioned numerous times Bill Barnwell, one of my favorite writers, probably my favorite NFL writer. Fortunately, he's ESPN Plus. If you don't have it, you can't read the articles, so I don't share them. But I'll give my thoughts on how he ranked them, what changes I might make, but let's get into it. And I wrote them down from least likely to most likely. And I think if most people were to do this exercise, they would agree that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the least likely team to repeat making the postseason. Of course, Tom Brady retiring is a large part of that. Baker Mayfield, the likely starter, really hasn't looked good for the past 2 years. They do play in what the majority would say is the worst division in the NFL, the NFC South. But even with that, I would say probably around 6 and 11 would be where I would predict them. Now, I am a New York Giants fan, and I hate to say it, but I probably agree with them being 13th. Um, Clearly the third best team in the NFC East. And you can't expect the division to get three playoff teams every year, even with the NFL expanding their postseason. I think the Eagles and Cowboys are definitely look like better teams. The Giants couldn't beat either of them last season. 0-3 against the Eagles, including the postseason. 0-2 against the Cowboys. 12th, the Vikings went 13-4. Second seed in the NFC. The problem was that a lot of the way their season went down, they did not perform like a 13-4 team. They actually got outscored on the season, which is crazy. They went what 9-10-0 in one score games. That's not seen as sustainable. They did lose a Darius Smith, had to cut Dalvin Cook. Adam Thielen is gone. So we'll have to see what happens with them. And they were actually a third seed. I'm sorry. The 49ers were the second seed last season. But they did add Jordan Addison to replace Adam Thielen. Marcus Davenport, who has struggled with the Saints after being drafted in the first round. Let's see if he could rejuvenate his career. 11th, the Dolphins. I think that's too low. I'll go over my rankings at the end now. What I would change. I understand, it's hard to know what's going to happen with Tua. Jets seem to have improved with Aaron Rodgers. Patriots actually got an offensive coordinator this year, but Dolphins just have a lot of talent. And yes, Jalen Ramsey may be out till December. That definitely hurts. But again, their offense is going to be hard to stop with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle leading the way. 10th, the Ravens. Also think that's too low. I'm expecting probably the second best season of Lamar Jackson's career, only behind his MVP season. That's just truly what I think. Finally got a few more weapons. Of course, they took Zay Flowers in the first round. Um, Signed Odell Beckham. Maybe 15 million is too much. We don't know how it will be after missing all of last season. But definitely more weapons. Of course, still has Mark Andrews. Maybe Melvin Gordon can provide something. And a full season of Roquan Smith on the defense definitely will help pay dividends. Ninth, the Los Angeles Chargers. Just a hard team because they're always dealt with so many injuries. Joey Bosa, their two top receivers, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Last season, they signed that huge deal for J.C. Jackson. Wasn't performing up to his standards and then got hurt for the season. Eighth, the Seahawks. Tough team. We got to see, can Geno Smith repeat what was clearly his best season more than a decade into his career. Still got his top two receivers, and they drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba. And of course, re-added Bobby Wagner to their linebacking core. Seventh, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've mentioned in previous videos, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be on the outer edges of the MVP race. Maybe not a favorite, but a guy who can at least be in consideration. And, besides the NFC South, you could maybe say the AFC South is the second worst division in the NFL. Although I do like the Titans. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs or win the division, but I just think a team coached by Mike Vrabel is going to overachieve. Sixth, the Cincinnati Bengals. May surprise you, but Barnwell did mention how the Joe Burrow injury could definitely put a scare in Bengals fans. Of course, uh, there's no structural damage. It's looking like he'll be ready to play week one, but behind them they have Trevor Siemian, Jake Browning. Not exactly guys you want trying to get you into the postseason. Lost a lot of members of their secondary as well. Fifth, the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to say I think that's too low, but just so much offensive talent. Yes, we got to see if Brock Purdy can continue. Looks like he'll be ready week one, but a stellar defense. Yes, I know Nick Bosa is holding out, but I'm pretty sure he's going to play week one. Stellar defense. Uh, Trent Williams leading the offensive line. Um, nice 1-2 punch. Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell. I think they're the clear-cut favorites in the NFC West, especially with Arizona looking like they're tanking, and the Rams, at least their defense, other than Aaron Donald, very inexperienced. Fourth, the Buffalo Bills. Again, the AFC East has improved. Bills have had a stranglehold on the division for past 3 or 4 years, but as long as Josh Allen's manning the ship, we'll get Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde back. Hopefully they could stay healthy. Von Miller, I fully expect them to make the playoffs. Third, Dallas Cowboys. I think that's a little too high, although I do expect them to make the playoffs. I just still question Mike McCarthy as head coach, but they do have a boatload of talent on that squad. Second, the Philadelphia Eagles. They lost 5 defensive starters, both safeties, 2 starting linebackers. Will Jalen Hurts continue his ascension as one of the league's top quarterbacks? And first, the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't doubt that. I agree with that. He even mentioned how the only way that he could see them not making the playoffs would be a serious injury to Patrick Mahomes. And with Andy Reid as the head coach, he could still see the Chiefs making the playoffs with Blaine Gabbert as the quarterback. And I could agree with that. Kind of similar to the year that Tom Brady got hurt for the Patriots. They put in Matt Castle. They went 10-6. Yes, they did not make the playoffs, but in the expanded postseason, they would have made the playoffs. And even if the Chiefs were to go 10-7, I fully expect that to be a playoff team. But what would I change from his list? Not much. I agree with a lot of it. I agree with his bottom two being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New York Giants. I hate saying it. I hope I'm wrong with that. Not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. I just think they're probably the least likely, other than the Buccaneers, to do so. And I also probably would have the Vikings 12th, although I haven't done my NFL predictions yet. I kind of have the Vikings and the Lions both as 10-17, 10-7 teams, and giving the Vikings the tiebreaker. That's not my official predictions, but that's what I would say as of now. 11th, I would not have the Dolphins. I would drop the Chargers from 9th to 11th. Again, just don't see them having any chance of winning the AFC West. let's see if that 27 to nothing, uh, 27 nothing lead they blew in the postseason affects them this season. Brandon Staley definitely on the hot seat. 10th, I would go Seattle Seahawks. Um, just think the 49ers are clear cut favorites in the NFC West. I get the NFC is not very stacked, but we have to see if Geno Smith can repeat this season he had. Although, you can never really doubt a Pete Carroll coached team. Then ninth, I believe I'm on ninth. Yeah, I'll go with the Miami Dolphins there. I do expect them to make the playoffs. I think if Tua were to miss time, Mike White is a slight upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater. And let's hope Skylar Thompson doesn't have to play at all for them. Eighth, um, I'm going to go with, it's hard now. I'm going to say I guess I'll go with the Ravens, although fully expect them to make the playoffs. Not just make the playoffs, be right there with the Bengals for that AFC North. So seventh, I'm going to go with the Bengals. I know, crazy, but just a lot of transition in the secondary. They still have offensive line questions. No, they signed Orlando Brown, but I think Cleveland's going to be much improved this year, believe it or not. And Pittsburgh, we know Mike Tomlin teams always finish at least 500. Well, you can't now unless you have a tie. But AFC North is going to be pretty stacked. Sixth, I'll go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not necessarily better than some of the teams I already listed, but AFC South, I think they're the clear cut favorites, so I'll go with them sixth. Fifth, then I'll go with the Dallas Cowboys. I think they should make the playoffs with the talent on their roster. I just have questions with Mike McCarthy. Fourth, let's go with I'm going to go with the Eagles here. Um, just a lot of guys off their defense. Again, I think they're going to win the NFC East. But third, I'm going the Buffalo Bills. AFC East may be improved, but Bills for the past 3 or 4 years, even as Barnwell mentions, finished the regular season ranked number one in FPI, ranked number one in the DVOA ratings, beat their opposition by an average of 10.6 points per game, best mark in all the football. They better make noise. Then second, we'll go. Who do I not have? 49ers. I don't see any way the 49ers aren't going to make the playoffs. Um, Regardless of who's at quarterback, just so much talent on both sides of the ball. And first, a great Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not even going to say much about that, but let me know your thoughts. What do you think of Bill Barnwell's rankings? Who do you think are the least likely teams to make it back to the postseason? Let me know in the comments. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications.